Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Inspire Before We Expire podcast show. I am your host, Terrell Sumter. Guys, I'm very grateful, thankful, and graceful to be here yet another day. That's never a promise. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take some time. As you know, I start each and every show. Close your eyes, 10 to 15 seconds. Breathe in, breathe out. Visualize. Where do you see yourself 5 to 6 months from now? Open. I want you to let go all those fears. I want you to know that you have what it takes to get to where you need to get to, but you have to put everything that's been holding you back to the side. I want you to let go of doubts, limited beliefs, and just push forward. I want you to know that you are not on this journey alone, that you can do it, that sometimes we may fall. Somebody may be there to hold our hand, but we may fall. But sometimes we may get back up on our own and keep pushing forward as we get closer and closer to our dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so grateful, honestly, to not only be present, but to make some genuine connections with some good people across the world, tremendous people. And today I have a gentleman originally from Boston, Massachusetts. So you know he's a Patriots fan, who resides in Los Angeles, California. Me and the gentleman been connected on social media for quite some time, and we decided to really let this personable connection happen and allow it to flow and do this show today. And he took time out his busy traveling schedule to be here today. So I wanted to first describe this gentleman in such a powerful way, and as he should be, for all the work he's doing. This gentleman believes in mindset fitness over willpower. As an international speaker, consultant, and coach, he teaches simple and easy strategies to increase quality of life and business. He teaches methods so you can rise above the two biggest dream killers of them all. Hear me out. Procrastination and also negativity. Whether you're part of a global corporation, an entrepreneur, an athlete, or just want more purpose in your life, these methods keep you consistent and focused on your journey towards fulfillment. The mindset allows you to take control over your life and business. He has directed over $500 million in sales and has been trusted to appoint key personnel to implement his sales and prosperity programs. His specialty has been rebuilding the visions of mediocre and failing businesses by developing the river of life for any company. Save. Along the side, this gentleman has also helped develop synergy through all departments, which supports explosive growth and allows it to become sustainable. His teachings first focus on self-development, which is transformed to the organization, which then grows with a stronger foundation. Guys, I want to sit here today and highly introduce you to my special guest, Mr. Ricky Mendez. Ricky, welcome to the show today, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for being here, man. I know it's the first time for you on the show today, and I know you just came back from traveling from New York, so it's your first time on the show. Rick, give us a little backstory for you, man.
Great, man. Yeah. First off, I love the name of the show because I think a lot of times people say or think that they got 1,000 years to live, man. So to inspire before expire is pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah, I was a CEO of a home energy company. We made your home green. We did solar and heating and air conditioning and roofing, and I had done a wellness event. And for whatever reason, I love live events, and a couple people had confided in me after that event. And one of the women at the event asked me actually to coach her husband. And at the time, I didn't do that. And I said, well, what's going on? And she said she was having some challenges. The kids were, I think, 3 and 6. And they were kind of, running around and being crazy in the mornings. I said, I don't know what that's like. I don't play in that arena. I'm not married enough kids, so I'm not going to pretend like I know what that's like.
Right.
But I said, try this. And she implemented something that I suggested. And she said it changed the whole dynamic of her mornings, her relationship with her kids, the relationship with her husband, everything. And what was utopic about it as we started talking is those 2 kids are being programmed and conditioned into a positive mindset. And what's even really cool is about it now, those 2 kids are going out and talking to 2 kids, and then those 2 kids are going out and talking to another 2 kids. And
Wow.
that's so simple. In many ways, it's how you change the world.
Yes, absolutely. So what got you involved in that space, man? What got you involved in, being a leader and being an implementation strategist today, man, and being able to help that lady and her family? Like, I think that's amazing.
Yeah. And the coolest thing was that's kind of what got me to quit my job.
Okay.
Just the feedback that I had gotten from her, it made me feel awesome. I think I became addicted to that kind of feeling. And
Absolutely.
like, well, I want more of this. So I gave up. I say this all the time. I gave up the very good to go for the great. And
Right.
a very comfortable job, was making very good money, and was on autopilot and well respected in the company and the industry. And that was one of the things that really got me to be like, there's something more here,
Yes.
and there was like, when you felt like you altered somebody's the trajectory or the course of their life in a positive way for not only them, but also their kids.
Yes.
It's like, there's just that feeling becomes really addictive really fast.
Right.
And I don't know if there's a better thing to be addicted to, but helping others in contribution, it was like, oh, that's what it feels like. And that's kind of where it was easy for me to go through all the challenges of building a business. It was easy for me to, not easy, but I had the why of to get me through all the challenges and what I call shitstorms that are bound to come. So that came kind of fast, and I was, it was never a question from that point on. It was just like, oh, this is what I want to do now.
Right. Right. So you speak of challenges. So what was that biggest challenge you had to face? How did you overcome?
Yeah, great question. So the biggest challenge for me was I was making probably in the mid 6 figures, and
Yeah.
I made nothing for 7, 8 months.
Right.
And I had to wonder, do people want to hear what I have to say? Is what I'm saying resonating with people? I gave up something super, super comfortable, and it's taking a while to be able to build this. And I'm going from making really good money to nothing and spending a bunch of my own money.
Right.
I now know that was like the best kind of process to practice what I preach. When it wasn't going so well, it made me seek out mentorship. And I still remembering talking or thinking of a speech that Les Brown gave at the Georgia Dome, and I still watch
Mhm.
it today. But he was talking about how he was having financial difficulties, but yet he was going to speak to other peoples and groups having their own financial, situation that wasn't so great. And he was trying to help them, even though his wasn't so great. And I was
Mm.
like, for 7, 8 months, I made no money, literally, and lost money. I was kind of in that same arena. So I watched that again and again and again and again. And it
Mm.
made me feel like, okay, he did it, so can I. So it really got me to another level of seeking mentorship, not just people that I talk to or speak to, but people online. I mean, I think we live in the greatest time in the history of the world, because we're fingertips away from learning something and going online and having endless, endless education to be able to do that. And so that was one thing for me. It was like I watched that over and over again. So that was a big, big challenge for me, from going to making very comfortable money to nothing and spending a bunch and having to practice everything I preach, and to have to go into my resourcefulness, not my resources, and ask myself, why is this happening this way? Instead of asking that, asking what can I learn? How can I grow from it? And then adjust and adapt to my situation.
So what advice would you give to some younger, entrepreneurs, young speakers out there right now that's going through a similar situation? And what are maybe 2 important or 3 important steps that you would tell them to take,
Mhm.
that you've implemented into your life that helped you get through that hump?
Right. Number one, I'd say congratulations on taking some risk. I think, man, I think so many people don't take risks. They're so scared of taking risks. And we're so taught to be in this comfort zone, or, many people stay in this comfort zone. So number one, congratulations if you are taking that risk. Like, give yourself a pat on the back. I don't think we do that enough. I don't think we give ourselves credit enough for some of the things that we do, whether they're big or small.
Yes.
And the universe will not reward scale. It will not. Everybody thinks in scale, but what it will reward is consistency. So if you're
Mm.
taking small, consistent action, that is what will actually lead you to where you want to go. And I would say, without doubt, is seek mentorship.
Mm.
A mentor can be somebody that's alive. It can be somebody that's passed away many years ago. I consider Napoleon Hill a huge mentor for me.
Mm.
It can be somebody you know. It can be somebody you don't know. It can be somebody that's your same age. It can be somebody that's older. It can be somebody younger. Mentorship can come in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. It can be somebody on YouTube. It can be somebody online. But seek mentorship and ask for help. That is one thing that my mentors taught me, was to ask for help. We're not going to do it all by ourselves. And the more that we ask for help, whether they say yes or whether they say no, it's almost not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to ask and to put that energy out in the world. So
Mm.
when you put that energy out in the world, you'll be amazed at how the world and the universe responds into giving you help. But it will not and cannot happen unless you put it out there first by asking for it. There's no shame in asking for help. In fact, I think there is shame in not asking for help.
Right.
So absolutely, number one, congratulations for taking risks. You're already way above and ahead of the game.
Right.
Number two, find mentors, ask them for help. If anybody wants to reach out to me, send me an email. I'd be happy to help you in any
Mm.
way that I can, because somebody did it for me. So that's like the only way I know how to honor that is to pass that on. And then someday they do it for somebody else, and so forth and so on.
Absolutely. I love that. I also believe that we can't do it alone either, man. It takes time for us to figure it out because we sometimes when we first start and we thinking we got it all, we got that pride and we won't be macho, feel like, we don't need to reach out. But I feel like it's strength and vulnerability, honestly, and teaming up and with the right people and getting advice for the right people. So I wanted to ask, man, you mentioned Napoleon Hill, author, the late great Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, for my younger people that's listening. Um, so who is it current in your life that really inspires you to keep going? Like just
Man,
continuously.
a lot of people. If I
Feel
could
free to
turn my
talk.
computer around. So literally right in front of me on my wall in my office, I have probably my biggest mentors right now. And in the middle of it, I have WWYMD. What would your mentor do?
I like that.
Yeah, and I look at this literally every single day. So it's something that I use for kind of education and fuel. I would say probably the two biggest right now are David Meltzer and Tom and Lisa Bilyeu.
Mm.
David Meltzer I've been working with for years. And that guy is just, he has taught me how to like kind of raise my own energy, frequency, vibration, whatever you want to call it. He is a huge proponent on asking for help. Tom and Lisa Bilyeu were the founders of Quest Nutrition. And they have really given a whole different perspective on what it takes in terms of, one of the phrases they use is rage to master, and also not being patient, but actually going after what you want with like just relentless kind of gumption, really. So those are two people in my immediate space that I talk to a lot. Yeah, in terms of people that I don't talk to, Napoleon Hill, I reference him and use him all the time.
Right.
I've met Les Brown, but I don't know him personally, but I have absolutely used him countless times. One of the other mentors on my wall is Walden Long. The dude was in jail for 13 years. He was a 3-time convicted felon. He reread Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Gets out of jail at 40 years old. Absolutely no job, no possibility for anything. And then 5 years later, he's making tens of $millions living in Maui. Like, how does that happen? Right?
Right.
If he can do it, so can I. So
Yes.
those are kind of a couple people that I looked up to literally every single day.
Absolutely. That's big, man. And what is something that like some kind of like some cool advice you got from each of them, like just that maybe that one quote, that one conversation that you got to share that you still sticks with you to the day, that one or two sentences, feel free to share with the
Sure. Yeah. So Dave, so when I met Dave for the first time, I asked him what his favorite word was, and he said gratitude.
Okay.
And I had given him a poem that I read every morning, which is a gratitude poem. And when you look at the quantum field and you look at energy and you look at vibration frequencies, love, gratitude, abundance, health, prosperity, all those things are really of high energy. And he kind of uses this analogy of gratitude being like a candle. When you have a candle and you go to tip it like this, it actually saves the candle, rather than if it's upright. If the candle's upright, it's going to burn down. But if you point the candle like this and you help light other candles, it actually saves the candle and helps light other people's candles. That's kind of like gratitude. So when you give gratitude, you're actually saving yourself and you're helping light other people's world in sense. The number one, in my opinion, the number one antioxidant on the planet. It's the best way to convert energy. It's our best superpower. It's our human right. So that's one thing that Dave really got me to expand on for sure. And Tom and Lisa, man, like the one thing that they have really shared with me is like their business and how they went from building a billion-dollar business in an arena that I guess one of the people, when they went to a retailer, the founder of Quest Bars, Quest Nutrition, and the retailer said, I need another protein bar like I need a hole in the head. And this is
Mm.
when the economy was going down, but it didn't stop them. And their both of theirs like work ethic has struck to me. And every time I think of them, I'm like, am I putting the effort that it needs to take to build $1 billion business and grow 57,000% in the first 3 years?
Mm.
That's what they did. So they have given me a benchmark to kind of look for growth. And
Right.
I ask myself all the time, am I working as hard as they have? And recently too, there's been a lot of people that have said, comparison is the thief of joy. But I
Mm.
think that depends. It depends on what we're comparing ourselves to. Are we comparing ourselves to somebody who has more than what we have and saying, oh, I wish I had that, why not me? Or
Right.
am I comparing myself that doesn't have what I have and being grateful for what I have?
Mm.
So when I compare myself to my work ethic and what Tom and Lisa have done, I think that's a good comparison to make, because it ignites me to be able to say, am I really putting in the work that I need to put in if I want to have the impact on the world that
Mm.
they're having?
Okay. And what about the guy, Weldon Long?
Wally. So Wally's my best thing about Wally was like, when you're reading his book, his autobiography,
Mm.
and called The Upside of Fear, and I'm reading the book and I'm reading the book and I'm reading the book, I'm like, this guy is an idiot. I was like, how can you keep going to jail? Literally, as I'm reading the book, I'm like, if this guy is just a moron, he keeps
Right.
making mistakes and going to jail. So, and this is his words, not mine. He
Okay.
was like, he mentioned his IQ or whatever it is. It was like, I don't know, an average IQ. And he was like, you know how that I know that? And he was like, well, when you go to jail for the third time, they test you because they can't believe how dumb you are to go back for a third time. So for Wally's thing, my favorite book that he wrote was The Power of Consistency.
Okay. I love
And
the
he
title.
talked about the brain science and the reticular activating system and all these things about how the consistency will rewire our brains and actually literally rewire our world. So
Mm.
Wally has given me two things. I always think, man, if he can do it, so can I. Because I haven't gone to jail for 13 years. I've never been in jail. And if
That's
he
good.
can achieve the type of wealth and impact in the world that he's achieving, and he went to jail for 13 years, got out at 40 years old, then what can I do? He
Right.
really kind of gives me a perspective of my potential. You know?
That's amazing, man. I think, you gain so much from each of these individuals for you to still stay connected and build that lifelong
Mm-hmm.
relationship, mentorship, and things of that nature. So I think that's exciting. And each of them, have something different to bring.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's dope, man. So let's get into, man, just your whole company right now, where you at in life right now, and like the organizations you're working with and things of that nature.
Sure. So right now, my main pillars are speaking, consulting, and sales training.
Okay.
So the speaking is by far my favorite thing. My live events are by far my favorite. And I just left New York. I spoke at a fashion innovation. It was Fashion Week in New York City. And I don't know anything about fashion, man. Like I was even on stage. I had a jacket on, a black shirt, and a pocket square. And I
Wow.
literally said to the audience, like, I don't know a whole lot about fashion. It took me 10 minutes to put this pocket square in. But what I do know about is the mindset needed to be a successful entrepreneur. And it's always progress, not perfection. That's why I bring up all those mentors. Like, I literally every single day learn something for them that helps me along my path.
Yes.
So that's why I love the live events, because it gives me like real-time feedback. I love when people come up to me and they say they like this. And I also like when they tell me they didn't like something, if something didn't resonate with them.
Mm.
So that's my favorite thing. We've done some prosperity summits around the country, and we're looking to go to Australia as well.
Okay.
And that's kind of my biggest thing. I do like coaching as well. That's
Okay.
been a byproduct of the live events, and do some consulting for different companies that may have me on retainer or whatnot for either building leadership or culture or sales training or things like that. But those are kind of the three main pillars of my business that I'm continuously kind of working on to evolve and grow.
That's awesome. So you mentioned speaking being that key there, so you said you just came from a fashion event and you didn't, you surprised that like, oh, you know nothing about fashion, but something you still, something someone said, man, bring this guy out. He has a lot to bring to the table. He can share a lot. And now maybe later down that the avenue, and maybe some fashion going on in your
Yeah.
life, where there's more traveling and for fashion and stuff like that. But I wanted to get specifically on the summit you just recently had, I believe a few months ago, correct?
Yep. In Nashville.
And what was the name of it?
Prosperity Summit with Ricky Mendez and empowerment speakers.
I love the title of it, prosperity, because you think of prosperity, you think of forward, you think of evolving, you think of just accelerating, right? So tell us about the event, man, and the speakers you had, and just everything else exciting and juicy to
Sure,
hear.
sure. Yeah, so we believe in a number of different things. So we wanted to take speakers from like a local community, and we wanted to have them speak to the community, because sometimes I think, when you have these big events, there are people that are coming in that are so far advanced, like the Tony Robbins and the Gary Vee's and things. And I think sometimes people look up to them and be like, man, can I ever do that? So I love that. I think there's definitely a place for that. But also I think there's a place for local speakers speaking to like the local knit of the community, if you will. So we wanted to have some speakers that were local in Nashville. And the second big pillar that we wanted was women empowerment.
Mm.
Mel Robbins has been a huge, huge, huge person to me. I watch a video jumping on a trampoline every morning, and twice in a row for 12 minutes. And Mel Robbins is a big voiceover on that. And since I heard that, I started reaching out to a lot of different things that she does and following her and stuff like that. But I think in my space, it's so male dominated. And I truly think there should be more women empowering not only other women, but men as well.
Right.
And I've told my friends, Mel Robbins is on my wall, Lisa Billy is on my wall, and another woman named Sonia Hatter. But it's just, there's so few and far between in my space, and they have so much to offer. So at any summit that we do, we want it to be a minimum of 60% women speakers. And I truly believe, I believe in energy and frequencies and vibrations. And I think when a woman says something, it does carry a different energy to it.
Yes.
And it can be a similar message, man. At least in my case, I know that like they have resonated with me on a much different level than other people have, because it carries a different energy to it, I think. So that's a big thing that we wanted to promote, is women empowerment, because there's such few of it in my arena. And I think that should change.
Right. So what do you feel like the highlight of the event was? Just getting a bunch of women of empowerment leaders who's doing so much in the communities and the lives of others into one big arena. It was a arena, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like from different walks of life, like what like stood out most to you and what you feel like was just that highlight?
Yeah. So for me, there is a 10-year-old little girl that plays a violin on the streets of Santa Monica.
Okay.
And
what's her name?
What's that?
What's her name?
Carolina Protsenko.
Okay.
And I live right next to Santa Monica, and I go walk on 3rd Street all the time. And it's a great place to go hang out. There's shops there, there's places to eat. It's really cool. And about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, I was walking, and I see this little girl playing the violin, and like she looks adorable, but she's got her little tip jar and everything like that. And there's tons of people around her. And I go up to her, I'm like, your jaw drops, right? So I go up to her, and I wanted to ask her some questions. And I'm like, I should probably look around and look for her parents, and like I'd come up to her with like my phone, like, I should probably find her parents. So
Right.
I find her parents, and I'm like, you mind if I ask your daughter some questions? And they were like, okay, no problem. And they're standing right next to me. And I asked her, I said, why do you like to come out here and play your violin?
Right.
She was like, well, I like to come out and make my own money. And I said, do you know what the word grateful means? She was like, nope. I was like, grateful means when you feel good about something, you're thankful for something in your life, like your family or your friends. And I was like, can you tell me one thing that you're grateful for? And she says, well, I'm grateful that I can play my violin and make other people happy with my music. This is her 10-year-old speaking. Another time I talked to her, I said, do you have goals? She goes, yep. I said, do you think it's important to have goals? She said, yep. I said, why do you think it's important to have goals? She gave me the most basic and awesome definition of goal setting I've ever heard. She said, when you have goals, you can grow up and be more than what you were.
Wow. That's all you need.
Right? Like a 10-year-old. And I think sometimes we have to let the kids empower us, right? They're so pure, and like they sometimes they haven't gotten kicked in the teeth by life yet. And it's a reminder of how number one, how awesome life is, but how great we can feel at any moment, and how that's our choice, and all these great things. So it's been 2 years now that I've gotten to know her family, and I had her play. She was the opening performer at our event.
Oh, wow.
And for me, that's why I share all that backstory, is because for me that was a highlight. I think she is the absolute definition of what women empowerment can be. I mean, she's a 10-year-old girl, but I think she's an unbelievable violinist, but she has the ability to be a thought leader and to empower not only men and women, but everybody, kids and alike. So that for me was a highlight, because that little girl, man, she puts in so much effort for her violin. She's so sweet and nice, and she's inspiring, and like you can't be around her and not have your like spirits lifted. Just can't.
Wow, that's
So that
amazing,
was
man.
and purposely we wanted her to go first, for the women empowerment and that kind of thing. But so she was our lead performer, which was for me the highlight.
Wow. So she was the beginning of that energy, man, for that
Yeah.
vibration to continue to rise in the building to the end of the event. I just
Yep.
think that's amazing, man. I wanted to touch on that because, our young people are who matter, right? And they look up to us
Mm-hmm.
as mentors, as heroes, as big brothers and things of that nature. And we must lead by example. So what Ricky did was he's seen this young lady and he's seen what she put out every day or most of the days with her violin. He see that this is a passion of hers and she young, and out there. And he decided to bring her to a big event where she's surrounded by older, successful people, but knowing that she will get there one day.
Mm-hmm.
And she was brave enough to take that risk and make it do what it do and be that highlight. So I thank you for really sharing that, man. I think that's powerful, especially with our younger people that's listening right now and their parents, to let the young people chase their dreams, man.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, still go to school, get your education, do right, stay out them jails, stay out the streets. You're going to struggle. You're going to go through some challenges, but you will run across great people like Ricky, who comes also, from similar challenges and didn't have it, in a space where he was always this tremendous person who many people looked upon for guidance or advice or partnership or so. He had to work his way there, but just feel free to really reach out to people, guys, because you just never know how it can make so much of an impact and tremendous difference in your life. So, Rick, I thank you for sharing that, man. Honestly.
Sure. And yeah, man, she puts in so much work like that. She's an unbelievable violinist, but I want to make sure people understand that she puts in work hours and hours and hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's absolutely right, man. Like you said something earlier, I even wrote it down, strength is being vulnerable. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I think we're so afraid to ask for help, and we're so afraid to say that we need help. But it's like, I can tell you, every mentor that I have learned from,
Yes.
somebody who helped them, who had somebody who helped them, who had somebody help them, who had somebody help them. It's almost a direct correlation between how much we ask for help and how much we're given to our success. Define success in any way that you want. I define it as being able to impact others and, help others achieve a higher quality of life. So whatever your definition of success is, but the more that we ask for help and the more that we get help, the more that we can help others. It's just, it's not rocket science, man. Like, ask for help.
Yes, absolutely. No, indeed. Definitely. I think I agree too. Rick, what's something you truly, truly believe in, man? Something that go on your day to day, and also what are some big organizations you currently working with right now?
Sure. The day-to-day is very simple, man. And I've given hour talks on this. I have given 20-minute talks on this. And it is the number one thing people ask me about wherever I speak. And now speaking all over the world, I think I talk about some really cool stuff in terms of brain science and parts of the brain and how that affects our vitality. And I'm somebody who measures the pH of my body because I know that goes to vitality as well. So I think I'm talking about all this cool stuff. The number one thing I'm asked about, the number one thing, and it's not even close, there's not even a close second, is gratitude. It is the number one thing. And I believe it to be the absolute biggest antioxidant on the planet. When people talk about antioxidants, I don't even know if they truly know what that is, but you have, really quick, let me just share this. You got free radicals that attack cells. Antioxidants neutralize the free radicals. So antioxidants, that's when you have oxidative stress. You think of an apple and cut it open. Now it's open. You're sitting on the counter and it turns brown, right? That's oxidative stress, essentially. And that's what happens to our cells when we get sick, essentially. So when you look at antioxidants, it's a way to be healthier. And the number one killer out of all of it is stress. Well, what causes stress? What we're thinking about. It's an emotional state. And we can change that when we want. So I say all that because I truly believe that gratitude is the best antioxidant on the planet. It's the best conversion of energy on the planet from negative to positive. There's not one, Napoleon Hill called it the seed of equivalent benefit. There's not one thing that you can take, and if you look for it and develop it to find the seed of equivalent benefit, the silver lining, the way to be positive. There's something positive with every single experience. So the more that we look for it, the more that we're going to find it. So I think that is our human superpower. I think that's our human right. I think it absolutely converts energy from negative to positive. And then when you start doing that over and over and over again, we get really good. We go to the gym, we get excited, and we start to build muscle, right? But then we don't do that same thing for our brain. So when we continuously find and convert energy from negative to positive, we get really, really good at it. Now people tell me, oh, Ricky, when they ask me something, Ricky, that's just Ricky. He's just super positive. He just sees the good side and everything. Well, yeah, no shit. I've worked on it every day since January 6th of 2016. So the number one thing that I do when I wake up is I read a gratitude poem. It's a poem that I wrote. It's a two-sided thing. It's before I go through my entire visualization process, my entire prosperity plan, everything. It's the number one thing I read. It's the number one thing that I get asked about at my events. And it's the number one thing that people have implemented to change their life. And it's so simple. It's free to everybody. It's endlessly abundant. You don't have to pay for it. It doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter your ethnicity, doesn't matter your gender, none of that. It is completely available to everybody. But then so few people use it consistently. There's one day a year, everybody uses it. It's Thanksgiving, man. Thanksgiving, everyone gathers around, says, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, I'm grateful for this. And then the day after, it freaking stops. And my mission in the world is to make every day Thanksgiving. It is just something where it's just so simple. It's so often overlooked. People don't realize how strong and powerful it truly is. But then when people start using it consistently, small scale, consistently, then people start not only seeing it changing in them, they start seeing a change in their health. They start seeing a change in their business. They start seeing a change in people around them. They start seeing changes in their family, in their friends, their loved one, their brothers, their sisters. It moves fast when that happens. And it starts with something that's so freaking small and so easy to implement that it's so easy that it gets so often overlooked. So that's probably the number one core of what I talk about is gratitude and the ability to convert energy from negative to positive.
Love that. I love that. I think that's powerful as well. If you're talking about the antioxidants, some people may not even know that, especially our younger listeners that's in tuned in right now. But I just think people need to implement this into their life, honestly. And I use actually similar to, I write into my gratitude journal day and night. Sometimes I may forget on certain days, but it's sometimes where it's those real impactful days where it's really a bigger challenge or if it's a bigger win. And small wins count too, people, but you sit there and you reflect and accept, like Ricky said, and he's been doing it for a while, writing into his poem. So I just think that's big. And like I say, that's big, man. And I thank you for really, really sharing that, honestly. Now, why do you feel like this is something really important for us all to really take in and really soak in on an everyday basis?
Yeah, I think it's important for our vitality. I think it's important for our health. I think it's important for our children's health, our parents' health, our brothers or sisters, everybody around you. It all comes down to your health. What good is if you have $100 trillion with no health, right?
Right.
This is something that can contribute to our health consistently, because the biggest impact that it has, it's not when everything's going good, man, right? Like everything's going good, it's easy to be positive. It's easy to think positively. It's easy to still, when everything's going good, it's easy, right? But that's not life, man. Like the shitstorms are going to come. It's going to come. The challenges are going to come. Tom Bilyeu says it all the time. The struggle is guaranteed. The success is not. So that struggle is coming, regardless of your business, regardless of your life, the struggle is coming. So just get ready to deal with it. And the best way we can deal with it, in my opinion, and one of them is gratitude. And it's so much more impactful when the challenges are coming. So part of my gratitude poem, so what drove me nuts, like this was one of my vices. I couldn't stand it. I can sleep like a baby. So when I get on a plane and it's like, you're on I live in LA, say I'm going to New York or Boston, somewhere on the East Coast. And I get on a red-eye flight and, they dim the lights down and I can sleep like a baby. I always got an aisle seat. I got the thing around my neck pillow. I can just conk out no problem. I sleep like a baby.
Right.
What would drive me nuts was when I got there, the lights would go down, and then a wailing baby would go screaming off behind my ear. And it would drive me insane. Like, to the point where I was like, I always apologize for people who have kids, but I was like, somebody shut that baby up or I'm going to shut it up.
Right.
Like, it drove me to the point where I was super, people call it stress, but it's not stress. It's fear. We're afraid to call things fearful because it means we're weak. If I say I'm stressed, I'm just a hard worker. So what I was fearful that I wouldn't get enough sleep. My next day would be shot. And I'm putting all of this, I'm building this terrible tomorrow based on the perception of what this baby is going to create in my life. And I was like, so that was the thing that just drove me nuts. And then when I learned about ultimate, like unwavering accountability, I was like, how can I let a toddler that's probably not even a 1-year-old affect my life? And I was like, man, I'm putting all of my basic energy into this child. And when I learned about self-accountability, I was like, the child's not freaking me out. I'm freaking me out. And I really started to learn about accountability, and I stopped playing the blame game. Blame this, blame that, mom, dad, brother, sister, coworker, boss, all that crap. And I learned about accountability, and what I used was gratitude. So I said, I'm grateful for the screaming baby on the plane because it means that I can hear. I have the sense of hearing. And I thought of how many people in the world can't hear, and they don't have that sense. And they would love to hear the screaming baby on the plane behind me because it means that they would be able to hear. And when I did that, it completely just changed my whole perception. Gratitude is unbelievable because it changes perspective, right? And when you change perspective, you literally change what's happening to you. So when I changed that, I was like, I'm grateful for the screaming baby because it means that I can hear. I was like, I do have the sense of hearing. Oh, wait, I have 2 arms and 2 legs that work. Oh, by the way, I woke up today. I have a pulse. I have amazing energy to do great things in the world. And it completely changes perspective. Now it is most impactful with the challenges because it's when everything's good and everything's going great, it's very easy to be grateful. It's when you're going through the crap that is inevitably going to come, that is when it's most impactful and most necessary because you have to take that energy and convert it from negative to positive, just like I did with the screaming baby. And it was instant. It was instant. As soon as I was grateful that I could hear, and there's so many people in the world that cannot hear, I was like, shame on me for taking that for granted. So that is why it's so important. Now, when we go to stress and we go to oxidative stress and we go to all the chemical and electrical parts of the brain and the body, which literally deteriorate when we're stressed. I mean, you can look at all the different things that cause all the terrible diseases, but they mostly come from stress and inflammation. So if you can find a way to not eliminate, but minimize that and convert energy from negative to positive, that, in my opinion, is making the world a better place. And I think we live in a world today where it's take a pill, feel better, take a pill, feel better, take a pill, feel better. And I truly think we've gotten lazy as a society. I think we have the resources for the most part to make ourselves feel completely abundant and completely awesome without taking the antibiotics, without taking all the things that I think people take. There's natural ways to heal, and I think gratitude is the best one out of them.
I love that. That's awesome. Like, especially when you're saying shifting that perspective and turning that negative into positive. Like you say, at first you was on that plane and you was going crazy when that baby started crying and yelling and you trying to sleep because you got an important trip to get to because you got an event the next day. But you took time to really see that it had nothing to do with the baby, but a lot to do with you. So you accepted it and reflected and just kept it moving. I think that's big. And I think you touched on a lot of key pointers too. So people practice gratitude every day. I'm big on gratitude as well. And so is Ricky. So practice gratitude, live in gratitude, express gratitude, show gratitude. Speaking of gratitude, Rick, I thank you for really going over that. I like to show gratitude to all my guest speakers, man. Interviewees, every episode. Honestly, I just think it's important. So I wanted to take some time, man, and say thank you for really being here, being present, for showing up, for coming with explosive energy, man, and showing your authentic truth self, man. Honestly, we had a conversation on the phone yesterday, and I felt the energy from there. And before we even started the interview, we just was chopping it up, conversing, and things of that nature. And now we are here. We are, and getting ready to put out an amazing piece of work, piece of art, and something for people to really implement into their life. So, and I think that's big. So Rick, man, I wanted to say, man, thank you again. So let's dive into implementation, man. You know, and just your whole thing on implementation. I know you're big on that because I think many people need to really take in and hear that too as well. So when we talk about like business and being in these certain rooms with certain people, so if you can dive into that, that'd be awesome.
Sure, yeah. So motivational speaking, it's kind of my space, my arena. I don't love the term. And I think it's like, yeah, you can be motivated and you can be inspired, but it's short-lived. And when I started investing in myself, if there's young people listening, after you ask for help, invest in yourself. Because that is one of the strongest things that you can do is invest in yourself. Now that can be books, audio, CDs, whatever, conferences, whatever. But when I started doing that, I would go to conferences, and I still remember the first $4,000 that I spent going to a conference. And people would have their, they would have their yellow pads with the paper, and they would take in feverish notes. And I'd look to my right and I'd look to my left, and people would be taking notes and notes. 2-3 day conference, I think it was 3 days. Notes. At the end of the 3 days, I look around me and people left. They left all their notes at the conference. They left without taking their notes. So now they spend thousands of dollars taking notes. There's no way that they can retain all of that, like not even close, maybe 5 to 10% of it. So I know that there was no change in behavior, but they just got a fix. They just got a high. But that's not going to be long-lived. It will not be, because you haven't indulged it into your brain and body enough to where it actually will change and take action. So, and Weldon Long, one of my biggest mentors, he was like, Ricky, success is not a knowledge problem. People know what to do. We want to get in shape. What do we have to do? We work out, we eat right. Like, not complicated. So if that's the case, then why are we one of the most obese countries in the world? We know what to do, but we don't do it.
Right.
So he was like, success is not a knowledge problem. It's an implementation problem. People don't do what they're supposed to do on a consistent basis, which is true all over the world, man. We know what to do, but we're not training ourselves from a mental capacity to take that action consistently on long enough scale. Now, there's lots of different reasons for that. One, I think people, they think scale. They don't think consistency. And I know this because I coach them, and every January 1st or December 31st, I get the call. Ricky, I want to change my life. I want to get into shape. And this is people's game plan out there, okay? They want to run for 5 hours a day. They want to meditate for 3 hours a day, and then they're just going to eat lettuce. That's their new diet. And I'm like, that's not sustainable, okay? But they're thinking scale. They're so excited on motivation that they're like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. It's scale. I can do this is great, but create consistency. And, almost lowering the bar to create that consistency. So, rather than running 10 miles, because people run 10 miles the first day, and then what happens? They're sore as hell. They don't want to get up. They might grind through it for a couple weeks or a month, but it will not be long-lived. It will not be a prosperity habit. So when we look at scale and consistency, and we start thinking consistency over a long enough time frame, things happen to move. We get into this jet stream of momentum because we built the consistency of it. So that, and all of that came because when I started coaching people, I hated that they would say, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then nothing would happen. Just like the people that left all their notes at the conference, and there was no change in behavior. So I consider myself, instead of a motivational speaker, an implementational speaker. I don't use the term a lot in terms of my socials because people get confused for it. I'd much rather kind of explain the vision like I am now. But I believe an implementation will lead to motivation, not the other way around. Because people get motivated and then they start to implement, and it's short-lived. However, if you just implement a little bit, but you do it every single day, then you'll see progress. You'll see your energies are being rewarded. That will lead to motivation. I think it's the inverse, because people get so excited. And the great thing is we're so accessible to unbelievable speakers and unbelievable learners and unbelievable people that have so much to share. We get literally high on this message. And then we're like, oh, I got this. And then it's not short-lived because we're not actually implementing. but
Right.
we're excited, but we're not implementing. So that's how I look at implementation: is implement first, even if it's on a tiny scale. Just do it every day. Take the gratitude poem, for example.
Mm.
So I show my gratitude poem, I don't know where it is, but it's two sides. And there's probably, I don't know, it's probably 40 lines, 20 on each side about. And people see that, and then they go to write their gratitude poem, and they write 20 lines, right? But then they read it once a month. Not going to work. So what I share with people is like, look, man, write one freaking line, make that line awesome, read it every day. I don't care if you just read it every day for 30 or 60 days. Once you have that down, then write another line. And I learned this because when I would share this in my talks, that's the number one thing people always ask me about, and this is the number one thing that people started to implement. But they implemented on too big a scale, they didn't create consistency. So now when I talk about it, I'm like, write one line or two, max. Read them every day. Okay, share what you're doing with other people. Now, because of the implementation, now you will have a sense of inspiration. You'll be in spirit. You will be motivated. Then you can use that as fuel to continue to implement. So that's a big part of it, is just like implement on a small scale. You want to start a business, you want to do all these great things in the world, great. Start with something that you can do every single day that will move you closer to your goal. Okay. So I love big dreams, and I love magnanimous visions, and I love the idea of building billion-dollar companies. But that starts with something small, just consistent every single day, I think. And I think that's the difference that I believe in implementation versus motivation.
Absolutely. No, that's big. I love it, man. I believe in that too. Because you got to implement it, because motivation, right? You just get started and and then you lose that. But implementation, you get that from others. Like you say, you had that conversation with Mr. Wiley Long, and
Yeah.
he said implementation, and you took it. You like, boom. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is something I'm gonna really use in my daily life to remind me of where I started and where I'm going. So I think that's big, and a real pure message to give to our young people that's listening right now, to really implement. Don't leave that paper at that desk, man. You didn't spend 10, 15,000 at Tony Robbins Unleashed conference or something like that, or Ricky Mendez Prosperity Summit, any type of conference, big event that you're gonna gain value from, man. Don't leave them notes there, because I'm telling you, it's gonna help you in the long run. Even if you don't get to it that day or that day after, remind yourself, like, okay, boom, I got this here. Put in a safe space and let me practice each of this every day, and it's gonna add up. So I think that's big. Now, I know we touched.
But I want to comment on this. Super, super important,
Go ahead.
because when you're doing that, for the young kids that are listening, when you do that, share what you're doing. If you implement one small thing, share what you're doing with other people, not from a braggadocious, I'm the man or woman standpoint, but share what you're doing, because it's going to hold you accountable to continue down that path.
Right.
So I have read my gratitude poem every single day since January 6th of 2016. Every single day. And I write it on my calendar. But I share that because every time I share that, it's holding me accountable to doing it again and again and again. So when you start to implement, even if it's on a small scale, share it with friends, family, whoever. And if people judge you or say you can't do it, fine, no problem. How they respond is not your responsibility. Just keep sharing what you're doing, because sooner or later you're going to cross paths with people that are going to be inspired by it and that are going to want to help you. So I just want to comment because it's really important.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I love that. I see you just recently spoke with, I think it was a few months ago as well. You spoke with Wake Forest baseball team.
Yeah.
So tell us about that experience, man, and everything, and something that really stood out most to you from your presentation.
Yeah, man. So I played at Wake. I went to Wake. I played baseball there. Yeah. So they asked me back. We had a reunion there in November, and then I went and spoke there. I think it was in February.
Okay.
And it was great because I'm starting to speak in front of more colleges now, and more athletes and more kids. So the coach of the team was like, Ricky, let's do, I usually do a 2-hour thing, mindset and then prosperity planning. And I feel confident in saying I've been able to hold people's attention spans. But I've never done it in an age group from 17 to 20, 21, right? A much smaller, much younger dynamic and less attention span, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So about a couple weeks before the event, the coach was like, let's do 45 minutes or an hour. And I was like, okay, no problem. And then I called him back and I was like, look, if it's okay with you, give me the 2 hours. I'll hold them for an hour, no problem. But if I can't, then I'll get feedback on how I wasn't able to do it, and I'll be able to grow, and they'll still get the hour out of it. However, if I'm able to hold them, then they get more value as well. And he agreed. So I was like, okay, it's a win-win. It might not work out the way that we want, but we're going to try.
Right.
And after the 2 hours, I had kids coming up to me asking me about the gratitude poem, about entrepreneurship, about the pH of our bodies. They were completely dialed in for the full 2 hours. And then I had them asking when I was going to be coming back. For me, that was like a huge litmus test, because if we can get people to resonate on a level of contribution, of greater later, of our purpose in life, then I don't think the age group matters. If it's delivered properly and their content's correct, they will dive into that, because who doesn't want to live a greater life for them, the ones they love, and other people? So that was probably the biggest that was by far the biggest litmus test that I had in terms of holding people's attention, because they were a much younger group. So that was really, really fun for me. And I literally still keep in touch with a few of those athletes today. And one of them graduated as an entrepreneur himself. And we actually might be putting on an event together that all came from that one event. So that was great, because it was on my alma mater, and, it was where I played. And it was funny looking back, kids that I sat in the same seats with and did the same, was playing baseball, and can't remember all the things. I mean, when I went to school, they didn't have, the cell phones and all that stuff, man. We had landlines. So I can't imagine the distractions that college kids have today, which makes everything that we're talking about today even more important, right? Because there's so many distractions out there, especially when kids start getting into social media. I think social media is a great thing. It can connect us people, but it can also be a detriment. But the social media isn't the problem. It's the user that becomes the problem. How they're curating the feeds and how they're being fed here is everything. And who determines that? Well, we do. So if people blame social media all the time, and they have these timers on their social media, that's not social media's fault. That's the user. So it's user error, right? So we have to adapt and use it in a positive way. So I think that was a really cool thing about speaking to kids or college students in that space, which was really, really fun.
Oh, that's big. You being an alumni there too, and getting called back, to speak to them. And it's crazy, because I know it was something to remember. Honestly, many people on the outside may not see how important it was to you, but you went to the school, you went through the events, and you went through the challenges, and you went through the times on the field of going to practice and not want to go to practice, and getting ready for tough games, and stuff like that, to help you get to where you at today. I think that's big. So, and then you even saying that one of the young guys, or maybe two, just graduated, and they in the process of doing the event with you. So they implement it, they implemented the strategies into their life as well. So as you mentioned, man, you're going to schools, you're going to you at conferences, you at events, you're in stadiums, man, you speaking all across the world. What are some along with consultant, what are some big organizations you're currently working with at the moment?
So some of the biggest were, I did a talk not too long ago for Humana. It's an insurance company. They're $60 billion, probably not as well known because it's an insurance company, but I really liked their message, because they gave money back on premiums for companies and people that had increased health, that actually went to the doctors less, which I thought was super, super cool and not the norm.
Right.
So Humana is one of the bigger global companies that I'm looking to work with. I've done some talks with Lululemon. I'm a huge Lululemon fan.
Okay.
That's a global brand. Home Depot's been a couple of Home Depot and Costco I used to work with a little bit. But those are some of the bigger global brands that I've worked with and will hopefully work with in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, I heard you in the last interview, what interview you did, talk about Lululemon, and y'all kind of was like having a little 5-10 minute conversation about it. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that, you work with those organizations and so like that. And you said Humana was like one of the ones that like really stood out to you, like mostly that you're really looking forward to collaborating with.
Yeah. They it was really cool because they were essentially giving discounts for how healthy their people were in different companies, which I thought was just like kind of innovative in the sense of insurance, right? Insurance, a bad rap from people, but they're giving discounts on premiums for going to the doctor less, which I thought that was really cool.
Right, right. Now I know you mentioned it quite a couple times. I know you're big on this as well, health and everything like that, and fitness, correct? So
Mhm.
I wanted to ask, man, like, how do you maintain that lifestyle? Like how do you sustain to, because you gotta have um you gotta be in good health to give talks or to be this high performance speaker to be around a group and culture or so like that or lead a session. So how do you really stay focused and how you keep your health up? Like
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you called it a lifestyle. For the number one thing is, for anybody listening, do not call it a diet. Do
yeah.
not call it a diet. Call it a lifestyle.
There you
Okay.
go.
When you look at the word diet, the first three letters are diet, D-I-E, die. I'm sure we've all heard that before. But diet has in my opinion, it has a low energy, a low frequency, a low vibration. It's a lifestyle. Okay. And what I mean by that is people think of diets as like what we're eating and what we're drinking, which yes, has a to do on our health, but it's mainly what we're thinking about. So when we can use the most, Napoleon had a mentee called Earl Nightingale, he called our brains the most marvelous, miraculous, inconceivably powerful force the world has ever known. So
Mm,
when we can use that force to adjust our lifestyle, now we can start to have greater health. Now we can start to make decisions on what we're putting into our bodies, but better yet, what we're not putting into our bodies. Because it's not always what we're putting in, it's what we don't put in that creates the greatest health.
mm,
So that's like kind of first thing, 50,000 foot level. But when I started to learn about the acidity and the alkalinity of your blood and how that relates to your vitality, I would start diving into that research wholeheartedly. So we all know our temperature, we need to be at 98.6, but no one really knows about 7.36. That is the pH that our blood needs to be at. When it varies a little bit here or there, we die. Okay. So when people talk about the pH, it's not necessarily the pH of the blood, but it's the pH of our buffering systems, of our saliva and things like that. So we
mm,
need a buffering system in terms of minerals to negate all the acid that we're putting in. Essentially, when our bodies become acidic and we have low-grade acidosis, it's the start of disease. Um, Gut health, brain fog, the cells they essentially die. It creates yeast and candida in the blood. So when our bodies are acidic, we literally start poisoning ourselves from a biochemical and a biological level. Um, that's kind of some fancy phrase for saying what we put into our bodies in terms of our minds, in terms of what we consume, is going to affect everything. So
mm.
I could do an entire hour just on this, but I would say start researching acidity, alkalinity of your blood. A phenomenal book. I don't get any money to recommend this, but a phenomenal book is Get Off Your Acid. It's by Dr. Darrow. And that is what I think they should teach in schools. That is what the basis is, in my opinion, of vitality. And it completely changed my not only education, but my biochemistry and my biological body.
Mm.
And and it's funny because people say they want to lose weight all the time, but when the body's acidic, it's actually holding on for dear life for fat. It doesn't want to let the fat go because that means the acid's going to go into our organs, which means we die. So our bodies are phenomenally smart. They want to thrive if we give it the right stuff. And when our bodies become alkaline, the fat just it shreds off. It just shreds off because the body doesn't need it anymore. Um, so I would strongly, and again, I had no money for saying this, but Get Off Your Acid is like, I am pushing that because I truly think that's what should be in schools, and especially in the States where everybody I know that comes from either Australia or Europe, they come here and they get food. They're like, why is everything so big? The
Right.
sodas, the extra size fast food, whatever it is, everything's in massive quantities. We sell
Mm.
eggs at Costco by the 40 packs,
Yeah.
right? So it's everything here is just so much bigger in scale. And whenever I have friends that come from other countries, they're always in shock by that. So when we don't understand what truly is creating acid in the body and what's creating and what's helping us stay alkaline, and we don't know, and we start consuming these things and consume them, that's when our bodies start to literally get poisoned. And we're doing it every single day without even realizing it. And stress is the number one thing where we create acid in the body.
That's what I was just about to touch on too. It's crazy because you read my mind. Like you know, as we know, life is life, you know, and sometimes it doesn't happen to us, but it happens for us, right? When you got all these assignments and you got to take on this next task and project, I know that maybe how do you level the stress? Like, how do you deal with it towards it's not so much in your way?
Yeah. It's easy for me now, man. Like, so I say that it's easy for me now, but it's taken years of practice. So I want
Right.
people to know that, right? Like, it does not happen overnight. Um, I believe it's because literally the first thing I do every single day is read a gratitude poem. It's set now when I go out in the day, I already have this filter on my life. Like, I have this filter that I'm set. Like, my main point is that now the stuff's gonna come in life, right? And I'm
Yeah.
gonna get kicked in the teeth, I'm gonna get knocked down, the crap storm's gonna come. But I have this filter and this set point that I can go back to. So I'll give you an example. I'm meticulous for preparation. So I was going on one of my first speaking tours. I was about 3 weeks. It was about, I don't know, 5 or 6 different cities from the Northeast down to the Southeast, down to the South into Texas and back to like LA. The day before 2 days before I was going to leave, my car was broken into. My house got reassessed on the taxes and I got rear-ended in traffic.
Mm.
All those three things happened. And I don't even know how my condo got reassessed, but I bought my condo in 2004 and this was 2000, whatever, 18. So when it gets reassessed on the taxes, I owe tens of thousands of dollars. And if I don't pay that, they take my house. Now, I never sold it, so it shouldn't have been reassessed. I have no idea how, to this day, I don't have no idea how that happened. And my car got broken into and I got rear-ended. These are 2 days before I'm supposed to leave for one of my biggest speaking tours, about a month. And my initial reaction was freaking out. I have to do all this stuff and I'm not going to be able to prepare the way that I want to prepare. But immediately I said, I'm grateful I have a home. I'm grateful I have transportation and I'm grateful I have insurance.
Mm.
And I was like that. As soon as I truly understood that, everything else just kind of went away, man. I'm like, I still had to deal with it, make no mistake about it. But I was able to change in what I believe, my biochemistry and my neurochemistry through what I was thinking about. I
Mm.
was like, look, no matter what crap storm is about to come, how fortunate am I? I got a house, I get insurance, I got transportation, I can drive anywhere I want. You know how many people in the world don't have those things? I
Right.
was like, I'm gonna spend zero time being stressed about this and 100% of my time trying to be grateful for this. And
Mm.
it completely changed my energy. So that's how I prepare now. I feel like I prepare every single day for what's gonna happen, even though I don't know what's gonna happen. But when I read my gratitude poem every single day, now I have this set point. Now when the crap comes, okay, the crap's gonna come. I can redirect it. I can convert it from negative to positive because I have this filter on my life now. Uh,
Mm.
Now my stress level goes down, and that's why I'm like, Ricky's just positive. Ricky just sees it in a positive light. Ricky's just that way. Well, yes, but it's because I practice it for years now. You
Mm.
know, so that's in my opinion, that's the best possible way to be able to deal with the stresses of being an international public speaker and to do traveling the country and doing all this stuff. For the fashion innovation, I was actually supposed to moderate a panel, and then the person that I was interviewing couldn't make it literally 2 days before the event. So
Mm.
I had to prepare for an entire 15-minute or 20-minute keynote that I had no idea what I was going to do. It didn't stress me out one bit because I was like, what a great opportunity to be able to adjust on the fly, you know?
Mm.
But I have this perception because of what I do every single day. And I've been doing it for so long. So now when the things come, it's easy for me to redirect. It's easy for me to convert from negative to positive. And this can happen no matter what the scale is. And I will share this. I was coaching somebody not too long ago, but my de facto kind of like when everybody tells me the challenges of what they're going through, because people can exchange, they can explain the detail of the crap that they're going through with
Right.
excruciating detail. But when I ask them, what's your idea of a high quality of life? Very few people can answer me that question. So where are we
Mm.
putting our thoughts and our energy, right?
Mm.
I think Tony Robbins says it. Somebody says it. We got like a highway to pissed off. We got a dirt road to happiness, So my de facto thing was always, did somebody die? Did somebody die? Right? They tell me exactly what they're going through. I said, did somebody die? And
Mm.
this kid sat across from him and said, yeah, my mother was murdered during a home invasion.
Mm.
It was the first time somebody told me that when I was like, did somebody die? And it hit me like it was a gut shot. And I was like, I don't know what that's like, man. I still got my mom. Super grateful she's alive. We're super close. but I believe in what I'm telling you. So I was like, let's find the seed of equivalent benefit. And we sat for 2 hours, cried, but we found a way to re-engineer that what had happened. And the comparison that I always give, if people don't know this book, look up Man's Search for Meaning and look up Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And to me, it's the best comparison of a re-engineering of an event that's ever happened. So Viktor Frankl was in Auschwitz, and he was in a prison camp. And his mother, I think his mother, his father, and his sister were burned alive. And he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he credits that experience to getting him out of that prison camp alive. And for him, that experience was re-engineered. And I always think if he could do that in the most inhumane, unfathomable thing that has happened in human history, then what power do I have? If he can convert that is just literally unthinkable. Now, how can I convert the challenges that I have at my job, the car accident that I got into, the stress of my mom, dad, brother, sister, boyfriend, girlfriend? Like, it gives me a comparison and a set point of like what's possible in our human brains and bodies to be able to convert energy.
Such a powerful moment, man. Honestly, you know, because you say you was asking a question at one person, but for you to sit down when he said that to you of the passing of their mother, you sat down and you cried it out with him and stuff like that to help him get through, and even gave him the advice to read the book you read, you know, by Viktor Frankl and stuff like that. It's such powerful, man. And people don't understand that, you know, there's somebody going through something much worse, going through a battle you know nothing about, right? Like, you know, you mentioned as well, you know, your situation before even going on a big tour that you excited for, ready to get on the plane and take a good nap before your big events, and your car was broken into, and then you found something about your house you had known nothing about, and something else happened, and another event and another event. But it's like, at this time and moment, what do we do, right? It's like not what life is doing to us, but what is it teaching us? You know, what is it guiding towards us? So for my young people and, you know, older people too that's listening right now, I really need you guys to really take in, soak in, and implement what Ricky is sharing with you guys today. Honestly, especially that just now, because we go through dark moments, we go through tough times. Tough times last, but tough people last longer. You have to look at it as a lesson and know that we will be able to overcome however way it come. And to share that, and even about, you know, the book and what this gentleman experienced, is that's a greater example of this person went through it and got through it and was able to write a book about that, then we can too, and maybe do something similar or do another project that we may feel is fits for our journey. I think that's powerful, man. Honestly, I think that's real big, Rick. And I know we got a few minutes, man, and we a little over time. But before we get out of here, good brother, is it something that you wanted to share that you haven't got to share in such a long time? Maybe at an event or something that you maybe sitting down with a client or with a family member. Anything you feel like you want to share before we get out of here?
Yeah, man. Actually, something recently. So my mom was here with my dad, and my sister, visiting in LA, and we were doing a cleanse. We were sharing some of the alkaline acidity stuff, so we did an alkaline cleanse. And I said, okay, we got to weigh in to share to see what we weigh, you know. And it's a feedback mechanism. It's all it is. It's collecting data to tell us what we're doing is working or not. And my mom didn't want to step on the scale. And she's like, no one's ever known my weight, not even your father. And she started crying. And I was like, look, we're going to do this. We're going to do this together. You know, I want you to step on the scale. And we got in a big argument. We're super close. My mom, dad, and sister, I'm fortunate to have them and be super close with them. But we got in an argument because she didn't want to step on the scale. And I was like, will you do it for me? And she started crying and she stepped on the scale. So she stepped on her scale and she wrote her weight down. Okay? I was like, we're going to track it. When we track something, what that is measured improves. The next day, same argument, got on the scale. But the third day, we didn't argue. It was a little bit easier. Fourth day was a little easier. Fifth day, it was a little easier. So I use that story to share, if you do something that is hard, it becomes easier. But if you never ever do it, it stays hard. I think it was Les Brown says, if we do in life what is easy, our life will be hard. If we do what is hard, our life will be easy. So if you're scared of doing something, that's even more reason to do it. Just find it in you, and then you will inspire somebody else to do that. And the more that you do it, the easier that it gets. It's just like everything else. So we have a choice. We can attack, which is difficult, and become greater, or we can put it off and become less version of ourselves. And that was something that was extremely difficult for my mom. Something so simple as standing on the scale. You know, it might be reading a book. It might be asking out the girl that you like. It might be asking for a promotion. It might be whatever it is, right? Do the hard things so your life can become easier, essentially.
I love that, man. It's interesting that you said that. I was looking at I guess I've seen the speech before, but it's one of my favorite speeches, the speech that Matthew McConaughey gave at the Oscar when he won, and he was chasing his hero or something, like 10 years always from there. I wanted to ask you, man, when it's all said and done, what do you mostly want to be remembered for?
Gosh, great question. So I guess whenever it's my time to go, I don't want people to say, I'm sorry. I don't want people to say they miss me. I want them to say what they're grateful for. That's the best way to honor me, I think, that's it. I want people to find gratitude easier and more efficiently in their everyday life than anything else.
I love that. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Rick, it's been a pleasure, man. If you could share with the people your website, your programs, any upcoming events for you, any upcoming exciting things that you're looking forward to before the new year, as we about to get officially out the teens and become grown adults now, 2020, so feel free to go.
Cool. Yeah. It's real simple. My YouTube's Ricky Mendez Speaks. My Instagram is Ricky Mendez Speaks. Facebook is Ricky Mendez. And don't have any Twitter or anything like that. That's about it. Website is rickymendez.com. And we're planning a couple events in LA. And I'm a part of couple different teams that have like health aspects. So I'm part of a CBG team and a structured water team as well. If anybody has any questions about that, let me know. But let's see. Yeah, LA is going to be the next biggest one. Then we're trying to put something together again in Australia towards the end of the year.
Okay. That's awesome. What part of Australia?
Sydney. Right in Sydney.
Okay. You ever been?
I go every year for about a month or two.
Yeah. What's something you enjoy most about visiting Sydney?
The beach, man. I'm a big beach guy. I love the ocean. I love the sand. So I stay in Bondi Beach right on the coast of Sydney. And it's kind of like last year I stayed for a little over 2 months or almost 2 months. And so then we're going to do some more work there and some events there too.
That's big. Okay. Rick, man, it's been a pleasure, man. And I'm grateful beyond thankful to be here with you today. People, I'm glad you guys tuned in today on us with the Inspire Before We Expire show. Feel free to follow my guy, Ricky Mendez, support his mission, and continue to stay tuned, honestly, as we all go through something in life, but we can also evolve from the experience, and we have to learn and accept and reflect and just continue to push forward every step of the way. Life happens, but it's never exactly to us, but for us, and there's always somebody going through something that we know anything about, guys. So I want you guys to really, really send my guy, Ricky Mendez, a message, tell him what stood out most to you from this interview, tell him how he can help you, and, building that connection, be vulnerable. Vulnerable has strength. And my men too, as well, because, me and him is big. I have big woman supporters too. And, we don't mind connecting with men. That's what we don't got to look at each other as competition, or, look at people as to collaborate and, to see one another as equals and, and things of that nature. And honestly, I really enjoyed our time, and give us a review on iTunes. Subscribe to the Inspire Before We Expire, and stay tuned for many more exciting, incredible interviews coming up, with the top more, the successful entrepreneurs at the top of their game. And these people are, are human and just like you, but they was able to really reach by working hard and by not being afraid to face failure and fear and overcoming along that process and along that journey as well, making sacrifices and changes and adjustments to their life. So, guys, thank you so much for your time. This is the Inspire Before We Expire. I'm Terrell Sumter, and this is my guy, Ricky Mendez. This is the Inspire Before We Expire, baby. God bless you all. Stay grateful, and we're out. Woo! Yes, yes.